Well, clearly we know the Blazers will not have 5 centers when the season starts.
You sure about that?
Fairly confident.
Don't put it past them.
Fairly confident.
Who's getting moved? Anybody taking on DeAndre Ayton's expiring deal?
They could. It's an expiring.
Anybody trading for Robert Williams with his 2 healthy knees?
Somebody will lie to themselves.
Sure.
They're going to play 30 games for them next year.
Totally going to happen, yeah.
Everybody's
jumping over themselves to trade for him after back-to-back torn ACLs.
WAP will play both G League and Blazer season. It'll sort itself out.
He'll be shredding it at the Child Center.
I asked earlier, is it the ballsiest pick in Blazer first-round draft history? Certainly you can make arguments like taking high schooler is ballsy. I totally understand that thinking. But when you're saying the average rank of a player is in the back-end 30s.
Yeah, 30 to 40s for the most part.
I think taking that at 16 is about as ballsy as it possibly gets. Even Arvidas, who one listener was like, Arvidas, go watch John Thompson's reaction to the Blazers drafting him in 86. Yeah, Arvidas, even at that point, though, the people around basketball, they had heard that name. They knew that name.
He was also the 24th pick, so he was later.
Much later, yeah.
Than Hansen Yang. He was 8 picks later.
It's Yang Hansen.
My apologies.
That's the other thing is
Hansen.
I heard both yesterday.
I did too. When it first happened, I thought it was the other way. Now I'm all confused in my own head.
I hope it's Yang on the jersey.
Yang Hansen?
Yeah, Yang Hansen.
Yang.
I think it's Yang Hansen.
The official Blazer press release was Yang Hansen.
Okay. So we'll go that one. The official press release has to be the one we go.
Yeah, man, I'm leaning through or looking through first-round draft picks in Blazers history, and you've obviously, to your point, taken flyers on high school kids. You took Quintel Woods out of Northeast Mississippi Community College. So you've had
at least heard that he was going to be in that range.
You've had picks over the years
range.
where you're like, all right, that was a little bit risky, but I don't know how it, this was a guy who came from the Chinese Basketball Association who nobody had ever heard of before.
He's 250 to 1 to win Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, I wouldn't lay that bet.
I wouldn't either because we got 5 centers, and I don't know how many minutes he's going to play.
Well,
Cooper's minus 3.
I said yes.
I mean, we were worried about Klingen's minutes last year. How many minutes is this cat going to get as a rookie?
Somehow this cat's going to be in better shape, so Donovan's going to have to take a back seat.
Do we have to go through that for another year? Jesus. You guys don't get it. He would die if he played 30 minutes.
Yakachonis
he would die on the floor.
Yakachonis 50 to 1?
Yeah.
That's not a bad pick in Miami.
Well, I just want to ask you this because I want to get to the Cronin audio. He was up front. He was honest. He gave his thoughts. You don't have to agree with it, but he was about as honest about it as you could get. My old takeaway is, well, I got a couple. Okay, so the first one is, all right, I'll at least give them this. They didn't care what we thought.
Nope, they identified their guy and they got him.
They identified a guy for 2 years, and they wanted him last year, but he didn't declare for the draft. He got in the draft this year. They were not going to overlook him. They were not going to miss the opportunity to draft. All the intel is that Brooklyn was eyeing him. Brooklyn is owned by a billionaire Chinese tech guy, I think. So they were nervous about that kind of thing. Plus, Brooklyn went real international yesterday. And so, as Cronin said in the press conference, we didn't want to lose him past 16 while also acknowledging we reached.
Yep.
It's a reach. The guy himself that drafted him, that loves him, is telling you this was a reach. But they loved him. So I'll at least say you were at least honest with yourself and said, I don't care. I'm doing it.
Stand on your business.
But the thing that I keep coming back to, he may end up being a good player. That doesn't make reaching for a player always the right decision. You can look back and say, well, the big Quesarito commercial. Yeah, well, okay. Nobody saw that coming.
Yeah.
I just can't tell myself fully that they've hit on this guy the way that they're publicly saying. Because how did none of the other smart people in the league not see it?
You're the only one. You and Brooklyn were the only ones who sniffed around this.
How did Sam Presti? How did Mr. International and the team that you think of international player, San Antonio Spurs, how did those guys not see it?
Yep.
Danny Ainge took a guy that didn't want to play for him yesterday. How did Danny Ainge not see it? I refuse to believe that they're the only team that saw this.
Yeah.
That's a far reach. And I keep coming back to one thing. Bill Orm wrote this yesterday. Could end up working. But he made the point that we have said on this show. What draft pick are you pointing to right now in their era? You're maybe clinging to the clinger. Maybe.
Yeah, who was fine as a rookie, but
fine.
nothing over the top.
I didn't think it was extraordinary, and I didn't think it was bad. I think it's right in the middle, and like, hey, in a bad draft, we got a center that was playable.
Sure, starting center.
And had good minutes, but didn't play a whole lot of minutes until the back end of the season. So if we just take that out, who is the pick?
There isn't one.
Okay, so like they're the only team that identified this guy to go 16th. They're giddy about him. But no other team saw this in that guy?
Yeah, this is the hard part that I'm having with it, and I've seen a lot of this of like, I trust Mike Schmitz. He's got the best international scouts. We didn't used to have international scouts. Like, I've seen a lot of those takes, and I chuckle at it. You know, Portland has added some nice pieces in the last, 16 to 18 months, and I will give them credit for that. Their two best players right now, I think we would all acknowledge, are Kamara and Denny Avdia. How did they acquire those two players? It was via a trade. They did not draft either of them.
Right.
Your draft picks over the last 3 years, I think you could look back on and say, other than Klingon, that was a terrible draft, so I'm not, whatever. That's 1 year.
We don't know about Klingon yet.
And I'm still being told he can't play 25 minutes a night, which just makes me shake my head. But Scoot has not had a stellar start to his career. I don't know where he's going to go, but the first 2 years have not been overly encouraging.
Right.
And Shaden Sharp, who was the baby Kobe, he was so bad and cared so little on one end of the floor that your head coach felt the need to bench him for half of the season. And he might still be coming off the bench going into year 4.
And he shot 30% from 3.
And he barely shot 30% from 3. And
Chris Murray is borderline NBA player. And Ryan Rupert is in the G League.
Ryan Rupert, I think, is up for. He needs an extension this offseason, if I'm not wrong, and I don't even know if he's going to get one. You might just
Jabari Walker,
you don't have a great track record of drafting guys.
Their actual draft history is not amazing,
which is why I didn't have a lot of optimism and confidence going in, and then they did this. And I said it earlier, and I know that it's not a short term, like, hey, in the next 3 months this decision will be made. There is a small sliver in me that does respect the. This is how we're going out. Like, we're going out the way we're going out.
Yeah, they got their guy.
This is the guy we identified. We've been scouting him for 2 years. We felt like we found the next secret weapon in the NBA that nobody else knew about, and we're just smarter than everybody. This team can't get sold quick enough so that people are held accountable, because if you're making a decision like this with the drafting track record that you already had, which was less than stellar, this is fireable. Like, this is sink or swim. This is either you have found somebody who can be a legitimate star in the NBA, we took a flyer and it panned out, or it's he turned into Hassan Jin Part 2, never did anything in the NBA, and we're out of a job in 16 months, because that's the only way that this can pan out. If you made all of this noise and passed up all the guys that you already did to draft another center who's just a run-of-the-mill center after taking a guy in the top 10 last year who we all look at and say, yeah, kind of good defensively, not a lot of offensive game, but he can grab some rebounds, he can block some shots. It's exactly what Donovan Klingon is. So you just found a borderline starting NBA center last year with a top 10 pick. And if you're going to do all of this with all the players available to draft the same guy in back-to-back years, you should be fired if that's how it turns out.
Well, I think the intel on Klingon would be borderline starting center, whereas this guy, for a lot of the draft world, was borderline NBA player.
Yes.
And this is the kind of pick that in the past, we're familiar with picks like this where we go, when will he be here?
3 years from now?
2 years, 3 years, hope of a year and a half. That's usually what we expect. Yesterday they said he's going to be on this team. He's going to be here. Now, look, I would also add, you don't have to believe it. You can certainly sit in the pessimism of they're not making a trade. They're going to have 5 centers. I will lean in. They're going to make a trade. Now, which one is it, and what do you get back? That's a great question. All we can do is operate in the world of what we know. Okay, if they trade DeAndre Ayton today and they get the haul, we'll react to it. But we talked about the Drew Holiday trade yesterday, and I kind of gave it an incomplete grade. I'm like, I need to see what the other move is. Clearly a center's leaving here. I don't know which one. I don't know when, and I don't know for who. But right now, that Drew Holiday trade is a C-D to me. And I'm still going to wait. If the trade happens and more stuff happens, I will it's a moving grade. But right now, wait, you got a 35-year-old guard who's not a clear-cut, traditional point guard. He can play off ball. His shooting numbers went down. His injuries kicked in. He's 35. He's making a ton of money. That told me that you cared a lot about the winning. But then you drafted a 20-year-old international player that nobody in this city had heard of.
2 years away from being 2 years away.
That might be Chinese Jokic or might be Timu Joker. I don't know.
Timu Joker's solid.
Timu Joker is great if it ends up busting. But I don't have an answer for it's like it's just a weird world where we're like balancing super young, hopefully we hit on this, but we want to win. And I'm kind of just left like, what?
Yeah.
How?
They're just, at times over the last 2 to 3 years, I have shaken my head at the idea of what is the ultimate strategy? What is the long-term plan? And I know a lot of this stuff you cannot project and you don't know how it's going to turn out. The biggest takeaway I had, and I know we're going to get to the Cronin audio, you have identified this guy for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
You wanted him to go into the draft last summer. You were praying that this guy went into the draft because that's how much you loved him. And last year's draft sucked.
They would have drafted him at Donovan was my takeaway.
They would have taken him
conference.
7th overall based on how much they loved him. And you know what? In a draft that was as bad as last year's, like at least a part of me would have said, what the hell? That was one of the worst drafts we've ever seen.
Sure.
This was supposed to be one of the deeper drafts we've seen in a long time. If you loved him that much and you knew you were going to identify him for years to come, why did you take a center with a top 10 pick when you already had 2 other centers on your roster last year?
Because I think I can answer this. I'm not saying it's perfect logic, but I think the answer they would say is you don't know where you're going to be in the draft. Like, what if they would have won?
This guy wasn't going to get projected as a first-round pick.
What if they would have won the Flag sweepstakes or the Harper sweepstakes?
And you say, we'll find another center. That's fine. We'll take Cooper Flag.
Okay. I just think that would have been their answer of like, what if we're not in a position to draft him next year when he is in the draft?
Yeah, you go find another.
We like
then.
Donovan now. Look, I'm not saying it's the right decision. They're going to have to live with
this
that.
This guy
decision,
would have been there
me.
in the second round. You could have taken a flyer. You could have traded back into this, used one of the 2 second-round picks you got, or was some other crap to move into the early second round to draft this guy.